Hello, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV. This morning we're going to be looking at putting the trampoline on the Hobie 16 in real time multi-cam. Yeah, that's right, I've put a camera in a tree. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to put this camera on my head and we'll make a start. Okay, so we've already got the trampoline lacing strip in the back beam here. The first most important thing with this strip is to make sure that it is even, so it's the same distance to either side. Okay, so then we can fit the rest of the trampoline, obviously making sure the toe strap is at the top. This does sound obvious, but it's quite easy to get it wrong. Now, because we're putting our beams on backwards, our side beams, so the opening is at the back, it means we have to put it into the side beam first and then into the front beam. Incidentally, because we're doing this first thing in the morning, we are taking advantage of the morning dew, and the trampoline is wet at the moment, so that means everything is going to happen a bit easier. It's going to be better for tightening. We're on to a winner, having the trampoline a bit wet. So just pulling that in. Again, this is how to do it on your own. Everything is a bit easier if you have help, but help is not always available. Of course, if you're on your own. So we've put that into the side. We'll now put it into the front. Of course, it's no different at all if your side beam is on the right way, the normal way round, let's call it. That'll just go in there. Okay, and then there we are, that is in. Let's do that again, but this time on the other side. So we're making sure the toe straps are on the top and the pockets are at the front. Of course, you could put your pockets at the back, put the lacing strip in the front. You could do whatever you want. The way that it's normally done is just because that's how everybody does it. But if you haven't got your pockets at the front, where are you going to put your halyards and your writing line? Yeah, there's a good reason for doing it the normal way. Okay, so there we are. Okay, one small modification we've made to our trampolines, because what we were getting was the trampoline sagging in this corner. You can see it's been repaired here, and because the trampoline was sagging, it was getting fouled on that casting. So we've got an extra hole in the corner so that we can lash it around the front beam. So we'll just poke this through. This is a special custom design, and we'll pull that as tight as possible, and we're doing that before we do any other tightening, because with the lacing we get a significant amount of purchase, whereas with this just single bowline purchase there, we're not getting very much at all. And like with everything with this trampoline job, we're going to do it twice. There we go, just poking the loop through. Okay. Very nice. The sun's just coming up. It's pretty chilly here first thing in the morning this time of year with no sun. But strangely, when that big ball of fire comes up, things get a bit warmer. Okay, so next we're going to take the trampoline lacing. And with a 16, we have 3 pieces. In theory, you should have 2 pieces which are the same length for the back and 1 longer piece for the middle. But this isn't always how it turns out in practice. Right, just going to line these bad boys up, see which one is which. Okay, so this one is going to be for the middle because it's the longest, so I'll just tie that on now so that we know which one it is. Now we can see that there's an extra hole here, so we can work out from that where we want to start. So if we were to start from here, it would go the wrong way. If we start from here, it will go the right way. So the trampoline should let you know what to do. And there we are. Very important to go the right way. Okay, and in fact what we'll do at this stage is we'll just pull a little bit through the first few holes. This is going to be a theme. When we're lacing the trampoline, we need to make sure we're always going the same way, because otherwise it gets a bit awkward when you come to tighten it if it's going opposite ways. And also it's just nice to do this part so it looks as good as possible when you're finished. All right, so we're just doing the first few there just to get a little bit of tension on there before we start pulling it at the back. Whoa, okay, it is early. There has been no coffee yet today. There we go, a little bit of tension in there. Lovely. Okay, so like with our modification at the front, we're also doing a slight modification at the back, just to make sure we're pulling as much tension on down this side as possible. Usually, if you see in the corner casting here, there is a hole here. We just put that through there, put a stopper knot in the end, and that's where we'd start it. But what we're going to do here, just so that we can give it a little bit more on that side, is put a bowline in there, and then we're actually going to pull that back onto itself. Oh, but no, not with this one. Oh my goodness. This trampoline is of a different vintage. So yes, we are going to do this the conventional route. In fact, okay, so we've just put the rope through the hole there. We've tied a stopper knot in the end. In fact, I'll tie a figure of 8 just so it's a bit bigger. There we go, pulling that through. Okay, now we can start lacing this up. So, like we were doing before, we always want to go the same way, so we're going out of that one into that one. And then because of what's going to happen here, if we come over here, it's going to start going this way. We're actually going to go through this hole twice. This is a little bit of a trial and error thing with your own trampoline to see how the holes line up between the back strip and the main part. With this one, we've actually got a back strip of a different vintage to the main part of the trampoline, so that's why we're having to take these radical measures. I'm going down, up, down, up. This rope that I'm using here, incidentally, is 4mm. It's a decent quality rope, but it's just got a polyester core. It hasn't got anything fancy going on, so it's not the most expensive rope, but it is important to use rope that isn't going to stretch. I have seen, and in fact, if you do this, put it in the comments below what it does for you. But I've seen people using thick shock cord to lace their trampolines, and it's always made me go, interesting, because I've never actually tried it myself. Maybe it's great for bouncing, but be good to see how that works. All right, so I'm now just going to tighten this up, and I'm just going to do this just by pulling. Of course, if you had two people, a bit easier. One to pull, one to stop it. But for me, I'm just pulling this with my hands, and that's fine. But you might want to use a stick or some sort of pulling device. If you've got office hands, good idea to put your gloves on, because you could wear a hole in your hands pulling this bad boy. Do be aware of your cringles, the eyelets, when you're pulling, that you're not pulling so hard that you actually pull an eyelet out. That will mean you have to stop what you're doing, take the trampoline to a sailmaker and get it repaired. So this trampoline is looking a little bit crusty. We can see some discoloration there from a fair bit of UV sunlight that's just been pinging that there, but still fair bit of life left in it. But I should think by the middle of the season this boat will have to have a new one fitted. There we go. So just tying that off. We might have to redo this later after we've done the rest of the lacing. It's now going to repeat that with the lacing for the other side. I'll speed this bit up. Okay, so there we are, the back, that is the back done. Next, we're going to do the middle part, and what we're going to actually do for the middle part, just to make it a bit easier to get the tension on, is we're going to pre-bend slightly the side beams. If you're doing this with 2 people, it's not as necessary to pre-bend the side beams, and we do have to be a little bit careful not to overdo it. And we're going to use a main sheet here. What? Yeah, a main sheet. This is just making things easier for ourselves. So I'm just tying a piece of rope to the bottom block there. Putting it about halfway down, yeah, which is about there. And just pull this one through a bit. There we go, and we'll just tie another bowl in there. Okay, and then just to protect the sidebar rubber, we'll just put these, this is old bits of foam from an old buoyancy aid, but cardboard would do it. Otherwise this rope will chew away at the rubber in the sidebar, which you obviously don't want to be chewing away at that rubber. There we go. And now with that about halfway, we're just going to gently pull this on. And if you do this too much, what it will do is put bend in your sidebars permanently, which will effectively make your boat more narrow, which, especially if you're a lightweight, you definitely don't want to do that. Or if you're sailing solo, it will reduce your wind range. Just gotta loosen that off again because my pad slipped out. Here we go. Getting that bad boy back in there nicely. Yeah, kind of like that, I think. Kind of like that. Okay, putting that on. And we're just bending a little bit. Obviously, if we did this too much, also, we could damage something. And that's just going to pull the middle together a bit. So even before we start doing the tightening, it's gonna be pulling it all together first. All right, and then this is the really fun bit, because we're actually going to go under the boat here. I'll just lace as much of this up as possible from the top before going under the boat. Under the boat isn't a fun place to be. I'm not gonna try to jazz it up at all. It's at the moment I can see under this boat particularly, I'm gonna be lying on the stones. It's a little bit damp. I'm not looking forward to it, but it is necessary because we can't tighten the trampoline of a Hobie 16 from the top. We have to get underneath. So just trying to make sure we're under there for as short a time as possible. And you may be wondering, what is this adjustable spanner doing here? We've met him before in such great titles as Replace Your Rigging on a Hobie 16 and so on. I'm actually going to use him just to be able to pull it a bit harder rather than just using my hands. But any sort of rod-like device will do for that. Doing this as awkwardly as possible at this stage in the game. See, that gap at the back is pretty big, but we're going to be closing that up. So, having done some research on rope lengths, the optimal rope lengths for the tramp lacing on a Hobie 16 is 3 meters 50 for the ropes at the back, and then 5 meters 50 for this rope that goes down the middle. Right, I'm just going to put a few hitches in there. Right, and it's time to get under the boat. I'll see you on the other side. All right, so we can see we're going to be pulling this way, so I'm going to be positioning myself ready for that direction of pull. Oh, nice. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's right, this floor is moist, but we're taking one for the team. All right, so pulling it, moving along, holding the tension as we move along, pulling it, moving along, and oh, it's wet. Oh man, should have put some sort of mat down. This isn't fun at all. Oh, it's disgusting. First thing in the morning. All right, I'm just switching to the hands because I've got quite a lot of tail on here now. Oops. And it is very important to have a tight trampoline, because especially with a 16, because the trampoline is responsible for all the rigidity of the boat. So the tighter your trampoline is, the stiffer your boat will be, and you definitely want a stiff boat. All right, moving along a bit. All right, mate. Okay. Right, I'm out of the puddle now, which is nice, but got the rest of the day with a dirty back. Right, so I'm just holding it there. Just going to pull some more through. Again, with two people, this process be a little bit easier. With one person kind of gripping it from the top, we use pliers to grip the rope. Sometimes it's makes it a bit easier. That'll do. So we're taking our spanner again, and where the trampoline lacing's tight like this, you just need that to get in there to be able to pull it. There we go. Perhaps I'm a little bit close. I'm just trying not to be in the puddle, but sometimes you just can't avoid that sort of thing. Right, and here we can see we're not really able to pull these creases out, so we're gonna have to take action. You can see that's it's looking pretty good actually, there. So what we'll do here is we're just going to put this through. This is just going to be temporary, to put a bit of purchase in there, and then I'm going to brace against the traveller cleat. In fact, we might keep that purchase in because we've got a bit of extra in the tail here. You can do the same on this last one, because this hole at the back here is pretty big. We need to close this up because otherwise things are going to be disappearing down there, like most often your main sheet, but other things will be disappearing down there, like your leg or the whole crew even. All right, so this is this is pretty rare that this actually happens, but that because we've tightened the back up so much first, we can't get this back part together. So unfortunately we're going to have to loosen the back so that we can get that back bit of the trampoline together, because that will never do. Only take a minute though. So it's the sort of job that you want to do it right, and then there we go. We can see just loosening it off a bit. It's giving. It is giving. Right, now I've got a wet top. I'm going to take this one off. Thank you. Pretty damp behind. With the other boats that I've done so far this year, I have tightened the back up first and it's been absolutely fine, but of course it's good to see these things happen so you can see it isn't just happening to you. This sort of thing happens to everyone. All right, and then also happening to everyone is losing your tools. There we go. So I've just found that. So we could now get more tension in the back. As well as the stiffness that the trampoline provides, a tight trampoline will mean you have less drag. A flappy trampoline will produce drag, and you don't want that drag, man. That drag would be bad. There we go. All right, and so now we're just going to tie that off with a few hitches there. Having gone round and round 3 times going up and down there. Right, that'll do for now. I'll just finish it off in a bit. All right, so now we'll speed this up. Okay, and we have got one hole left, you may have noticed there. And we're just going to go across to him and back to him. So we can pull it in there. Again, closing that hole. Right, nearly there. Yeah, especially if you've got an older boat, don't be pulling this too hard because your trampoline might disintegrate. It's one of the most immediate, instant upgrades for your boat alongside sails is a trampoline, as it really affects the comfort when you're sailing and how your boat looks, how it feels. There we go. I'm going to go to this middle hole with this one as well. We've got a fair bit left there somehow. So we did see before we started doing the lacing that these two bits of lacing for the back weren't the same length, so 3 meters 50 is definitely the sweet spot, whereas this is a little bit long. Okay, so I might even trim this off a little bit so it's the same as the other one. That would be a good idea, I think. Right, last thing to do is just to take the main sheet off. It's pretty tight there, but when we take the main sheet off, the sidebars will come out again, meaning that's going to kind of automatically tighten that up even more. And there we are, she's looking silky smooth, ready for the next stage. Okay, so I just mentioned at the start there was a different way that I'd been doing the other trampolines, and that's because on the other trampolines we've got an extra hole here, which means you need to go back here. So what we've done here is we've just tied a bowline through here, gone to the hole, back to the bowline, and then started effectively from there. So that's the difference if you've got an extra hole here. But thanks for watching. It's been a great pleasure lying in a puddle first thing in the morning today. There'll be more to come. The sun is out again, as you may be able to see there. So it's good times here at Wild Wind Beach Club Sailing Holidays. Thank you very much.